What are your best April Fool's Day pranks? 2 years ago I switched the location of the kitchen drawers. A more subtle variation. If the utensil drawer is organized, switch the forks and the spoons. They'll be reaching for a fork and coming up with a spoon in their hand without realizing why. At work, leave a post-it note on someone's desk that says "See me immediately." Then make the signature illegible. We were asked to mark some exams for some younger kids when we were in high school. We wrote "See me after class" on all of them. The teacher who assigned us that job was pissed. In high school, when kids would be wearing headphones, we would tap them on the shoulder and say that the teacher wanted to see them. The look on both the teacher and the students were always priceless. It never failed. A friend's father was a manager at Home Depot. Over the course of a few months he would snip about 1/4 a day off another worker's apron string. The worker thought they were gaining weight at a crazy high rate, but couldn't figure out how. Mental prank warfare. I had a roommate who I adored, but he was incredibly gullible and I used it to my favor. One day on my computer I created a sound file with about 10 seconds of silence and then I creepily whispered his name. I then put it on a thumb drive, transferred the file to his computer, and set it to play whenever he minimized a window. The reason for the silence was so that he wouldn't easily associate the sound with minimizing the window. And for 2 weeks I heard nothing. And finally one day he came to my room looking visibly disturbed and confused and asked hesitantly, "Are you going to my door and whispering my name over and over?" I couldn't help myself and burst out laughing and explained the prank to him. He was relieved and said, "Thank God, I was starting to think I was hallucinating things." Tape a door is broken. Use other door sign to every door with arrows pointing clockwise or counterclockwise for you anarchists out there around the building. My boss does this one every year. Always gets the new people. Last year someone called up to the office and asked what to do. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm new to my company, a manufacturing company with a large rectangular building with a door every 100 feet. I plan to hit all of them late tonight. There's the nice, simple switching of the M and the N keys on the keyboard. I did this a few years ago to our receptionist, whose password wound up containing both letters. After a few minutes of trying to log in, she called IT, based in another office. After a few attempts, he just said, "Look at your keyboard. Tell me if the N is on the left or the right, and have you, Bramphausian, call me." Then I did it the next year to my boss. Placing objects in areas where said objects aren't usually found in. Saw a girl in my bed. I'm sorry, I don't know how to react to that. Just point and laugh. Like my dad. Put a piece of paper about the size of a ticket that says April Fools under a bunch of people's windshield wipers parked at meters or in ramps. Put a piece of paper about the size of a ticket that says sorry about the dent under a bunch of people's windshield wipers parked at meters or in ramps. Then, using a ball-peen hammer, pound April Fools into the door. Left a note for a coworker saying he missed a call from a Mr. Bear. Phone number was for a zoo in a different state. Did the same to my boss, but instead it was Mr. Leon and gave him the number to our local zoo. In 3rd grade, 2 of the teachers were best friends, so they both pranked our classes by saying we were going on a field trip for a while and hyped it up so much we even got lined up at the door and everything. Then they just yelled April Fools. Imagine our disappointment. Some kids even started crying a little. They felt kinda bad, so they promised to make it up by giving us all brownies at the end of the day. That cheered everyone right up. Although we shouldn't have trusted them again, because when the end of the school day rolled around and we were all wanting our yummy brownies, they come in and give us these stupid brown letter E's made of paper. I am still upset to this day. I just wanted some brownies, man. Sad face. The guy who burned hundreds of tires in a dormant volcano to make people think it erupted again was my favorite. I was working at a doctor's office, and the parking situation was limited, so we had to take a shuttle to the office building. On the shuttle was all my coworkers with the exception of the office manager. We all decided it would be hilarious to call out of work, one by one, all 6 of us, one at a time, one right after the other called out, the manager getting more and more hysterical with each call. We walked into the office 20 seconds later, and she was in full panic mode. Pretty funny stuff. One time when I was in about 5th grade, I didn't want to actually legitimately prank the teacher for fear of getting in trouble, so I literally just put a note on her desk saying "look up." I waited until she saw the note and watched all the color drain from her face as she slowly turned her head upwards, only to still be in shock to find there was nothing there. I watched the whole thing from the window at recess. Just needed a note on the ceiling that said April Fools. Not April Fools. It the best dad prank my dad ever pulled in my opinion. When I was in 3rd grade, I had to write a biography of my dad, so I had all the normal shit. My dad was born in West Branch. My dad went to Agemore Heights High School. My dad's best friend was named Ben Dover. And it got worse. My dad and Ben liked to golf together. My dad remembers that Ben was always very gentle with the balls but held the shaft too tight. Took until last year when our basement flooded and we had to take all of that stuff upstairs for me to find it. I turned that into my teacher. No one said anything. One time when I was a kid, my dad woke me up frantically saying that I was going to be late for school. This was sometime during my elementary years. I panicked and rushed through my morning routine. It was not until I was outside at the bus stop waiting that I realized no other kids on the block were also at the stop. After about 10 minutes, I look at my house and see my dad with his head poking out of the door just snickering to himself. It turns out it was Saturday. I pick your nursing home. Who's laughing now? Not my idea, but a colleague's. On March 31st, hold a meeting in the office about some subject that makes sense at your workplace. On April 1st, hold the exact same meeting and tell everyone, but one person, to say and do exactly the same things. When I was 16, I mailed my brother a letter pretending to be a woman he'd hooked up with a few years before and asking if he'd like to meet their daughter. He didn't even finish reading the letter before he walked over and punched me really hard in the thigh. I guess my 16-year-old chicken scratch didn't look much like lady handwriting. I cut out a silhouette of a rat and put it into one of the plastic panels that covered the fluorescent lights. Looking up, it looked exactly like a rat had died in the light. I never revealed it was me.